Hey everyone, welcome to Marketing for Designers podcast. I'm your host, Masha Coyne, a messaging strategist and a copywriter for the interior design industry. I've been marketing for what feels like forever in my past career at some of the biggest global firms like KPMG and Deloitte. Today, I write website copy for designers using my signature voice of customer framework. If you're a designer looking to up your marketing game and attract premium clients, this podcast is for you. Each week on the show, we're going to be talking all things marketing, from branding to messaging to social media, SEO, and so much more. So you can have all the tools you need to grow your business and attract your dream clients. Welcome back to Marketing for Designers, where we talk about all things marketing. So there's different ways to market yourself. And in the interior design world, when we think about marketing your business, we typically think about your website, your messaging. We think about Instagram, maybe LinkedIn. We think about email newsletters, being published in the media, Google ads, Facebook ads, TikTok, and all those things. That's what typically comes to mind. Very rarely we talk about publishing books as a way to differentiate your business. So I was super excited about today's topic because this is something somewhat of a new and innovative way, specifically for this industry of interior design, and to be able to talk to an expert that actually helps business owners market their businesses through book publishing. So I want to introduce you to my guest today. He's Mike Capuzzi. He is the author, nonfiction book coach, and short book publisher for business owners, entrepreneurs, and CEOs looking to leverage the power of being short, helpful book author. Since 1998, Mike has helped thousands of business owners market their businesses more smartly. Bite Size Books is his book publishing company, founded on his proven formula for creating short, helpful books, shooks, he calls them, for business owners, entrepreneurs, and corporate leaders. Shooks are the ideal type of a book to publish because they're easy and fast to create. They can be read in about an hour and offer helpful ways for readers to connect with the author. So Mike is the author of actually 20 books, including 2 international Amazon #1 bestsellers, The 100-Page Book and The Magic of Short Books. He's also the host of the Author Factor podcast, where he interviews business owners, authors, and shares their best tips, wisdom, and insights on how they write and leverage a nonfiction book in their business. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, Masha, thank you very much. And someday when you become that book author, which I'm thinking you're probably going to be someday,
thank you.
We'll have to have you on my podcast.
I'm definitely thinking about it. I've been thinking about it. I was like, oh my God, what are the chances that I get an expert to talk about it? So this is selfishly a very interesting and relevant topic to myself, but also for my audience of interior designers. So let's start. Why should you even consider publishing a short book?
Well, I'll take, if I could, just one step back and say why just publishing a book, right? Because this idea of a short book, I want to kind of elaborate a little bit more on. But Masha, books have been used by business owners as far back as the 1800s. I've literally done research. I've described them in my shooks that I've written. So it's not this new concept. The idea of a thought leader, somebody with something important to say, somebody who's trying to share helpful information. Books have been used for thousands of years, right? So, but in the context of business, definitely over 100 years. So there's something special. Books, unlike most typical marketing, most people are they're used to paying for books. There's bookstores, there's libraries. You get a brochure, a business card, whatever it is. Typically, ends up in the recycle bin. But a book doesn't. And books have value, their perceived value. Book authors have a perceived difference between a non-author and an author. So there's a lot of good historical reasons why anybody, but for our conversation today, in particular, business owners and interior designers should publish a book. Now, we both know that time is, we're all more time strapped. I love books. I love book reading. Matter of fact, I know we're not doing video, Masha, but you can see this book. This is a big book. I got it, right? Amazon ads for authors, right? I bought it 2 months ago, and you can see how far into it I am because it's just so long. It's taking forever, etc. And this idea of why not have, instead of one big long 300 or 400 page book, why not have 3 100 page books that break it down much easier, much more focused. And I think I know for a fact, the power of short books that can be read in about an hour. So they're real books. They're not little pamphlets. They're real books, but they're designed to be read in an hour. Ultra, ultra smart, ultra effective for a lot of types of businesses. And you and I can talk about why I think interior designers should have a short business book.
It's true. When I look at it, and I'm like an Amazon junkie. Like I have so many books that are still yet to be read. And it's true. When you look at a shorter book, it requires a lot less commitment, I feel like, in the person's mind, but it still offers you the credibility of a typical regular book.
And if that person can read it, to your point, I always say if someone can jump on a plane, let's say Toronto, and they're flying to Chicago, not a very long flight, but if they can accomplish and say, read that short book, and because of its design and its structure, which we'll talk about, it encourages them to reach out to the author for more information or learn more about their services or products, then it's a win-win, right? So we're not talking about books that are textbooks. We're not talking about academic books. We're not, the encyclopedia of A to Z interior design. We're talking about maybe a subset of interior design, a special focus. And again, it's all designed with people have questions about this type of stuff. How can I help them in about an hour?
So we're talking about a specific angle, making something very actionable, something that people can use immediately, something that they can use the value of that. Okay, So how do we tie having a book, publishing a book, being a published author to lending better clients or maybe some visibility or something of value that interior designers are after?
So I know for a fact that when somebody is researching an interior design project, whatever it might be, there's questions they have. There's things they're researching. There's things they should know about. So I believe, first and foremost, a book as part of that arsenal of all the online stuff you mentioned earlier. I mean, all that's, we're not saying don't have a social media presence, don't have, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying to differentiate yourself. There's probably few interior designers that have a published book. How does it help them land better clients? Again, if you look at historical data and just even, your own experience, people that are more in tune, who are readers, tend to be more structured in how they buy. They tend to be researchers. So they're looking for information. They also tend to be more, now this is a generalization, but they tend to be more affluent, more money to spend. So because of that, they appreciate helpful information. And if you can give it to them in a book format, whether it's a Kindle book or a paperback book, whatever it might be, and they can digest it on their own and then reach out to you, I just think it's, again, it's a win-win situation.
And we're not talking about a book replacing your marketing initiatives or whatever channels. We're talking about like integrating that into your marketing strategy overall.
Yeah, I mentioned to you earlier in one of my books called Main Street Author, where I describe how interior designers are Main Street authors. They're oftentimes a local business owner with a local presence. Some may not have that, but a lot of them might have a studio, whatever. So I wrote a book called Main Street Author, and Masha, I literally, in that description, now it's not interior design per se, I use a kitchen remodeler as an example. So somewhat close, right? And I said, listen, and I use that example because when I wrote that, my wife and I were just going through a kitchen remodeling process. And, it's a big budget thing. She researched some remodelers, got some referrals, and nobody came and gave us a book. But I said, listen, as we were going through that buying process, had one of them, if you just had compared 2 remodelers, and one came in and did their usual shtick, they measured and said, hey, I'll get back to you. And then another one came in, did the same thing, but said, oh, by the way, at the end of the meeting, we wrote a book on, the 10 best tips for kitchen remodeling, and here it is. Mm-hmm. There's a difference. Something, for a guy like me, something would click. So that's what we're trying to, achieve here, is that differentiation point, that being competitively different and using a book as that vehicle.
It's true. There's something about having a book that gives you that higher credibility, just a little bit better.
Absolutely.
It definitely gives you a competitive edge. So let's say an interior designer listening is consider maybe they've never considered writing a book, but now that after they've listened to you, maybe there's some type of idea as percolating. How do they even start? Where do you start? How do you know what's a good topic? What's a
Great question.
book-worthy topic?
It's a great question. One, and I hope I can remember them. One idea, Masha, would be if you're getting a set of repeated questions over and over again, what color should I consider? Again, I'm not a target, so but your members know there's questions that are getting over and over again. I showed you earlier, and again, I know you're not sharing the video, but I work with a lot of mattress retailers, people who sell mattresses, pillows, sheets, Main Street business owners. And we have a whole series of books that we've created for them, like how to choose a mattress. And all it does, Masha, is it just answers the top questions that people have when they are, mattress shopping. So a frequently asked question focused or a should ask question. What are the questions that you should be asking that they don't know to ask? And just ask them and answer them in a book. Very simple format. Another style which I like, which I'm sure a lot of your members could think about, would be if they're doing something uniquely different. If they're doing something, they have a skill set, a training, a way of approaching interior design that is different, then they should wrap a short book around that idea. Maybe they were, spend time in Europe and learning from some math. I don't know what it might be, right? But I always use the idea of a special sauce, right? There's Burger King and there's McDonald's. They both sell hamburgers, right? So they're selling the same thing. But one has the Big Mac, one has the Whopper, one has special sauce, one doesn't, type of thing. That, the idea is how can you make what sounds ordinary, interior design, extraordinary by layering on your training, your philosophies, your strategies, tactics, etc., and describing that in a short book. Very powerful.
Yeah. So it's interesting. What you're suggesting is actually something that I suggest to my own clients for their websites, because I feel like a book is almost like a mini website where you communicate, frequently asked questions. That's definitely something worth exploring because we use frequently asked questions to overcome objections and also to address some of the questions that your clients and your prospects are most likely thinking. So why not proactively address them in the form of a FAQ page or some type of section on the website? So you're suggesting that that could be potentially a great topic, just tackling those questions that your ideal clients may have. And I love the idea of the special sauce. I call it like the X factor, and some people call it, the secret sauce or whatever. And that could be a great one. Even if a designer has a unique philosophy, that could be a unique design philosophy, that could be potentially a great topic for a short book.
For sure. And Masha, again, maybe not exactly relevant, but I think you and your listeners will appreciate this. I am working with a very interesting client right now. She's a woman down in Texas. She's a professional artist. She's writing and publishing a short helpful book on art, wall art, as a way of calming and helping you calm yourself and achieve goals. And there's a whole philosophical thing that she's developed, but it's about wall art, personalized wall art that she will paint for her clients. So it's a lead gen type of book for her. She's going to give it out as a way to describe why you want to commission her to paint this art. Again, always thinking about the value that you could offer your prospective readers, who are your potentially prospective clients, and how can you add value to them and help them make a smart decision. Not all of them are going to hire you, but it doesn't matter. You're just trying to help them first, and then the natural progression, there's always going to be a percentage that will rise up and become clients.
So if we talk about the actual, the logistics of that, so what's a goal of a short book? Is it to provide a step-by-step to something,
Again,
or the next step,
yeah.
or to just for somebody to get an idea of what to consider? What's the goal?
Well, so I grew up in an Italian family, so I love cooking, right? And I always say I've developed this recipe for a shook, a short helpful book. The recipe is a bunch of ingredients that you put together in a very specific way to come up with a really good, short lead generation, lead magnet type book. This is not going to be on the New York Times bestseller or anything like that. That's not what this purpose of this book is. It's about helping and then bringing a percentage of the readers to connect with you. So I mentioned that because you said something about the next step. One of the ingredients is literally a chapter called The Next Step. We're that specific in telling readers what to do next. So yes, there's a formula, Masha. I don't want to get too detailed, but the main matter content are the frequently asked questions or whatever it is we're focusing on, whatever the helpful content is. That is bookended by the front matter, which is your introduction, maybe a forward, etc. But then the back matter, which is transitioning to telling readers, listen, if you're interested, here's what to do next. And typically, Masha, we have two, and you're a marketer, so you'll love this. There are two pathways that we bring our readers on. One is called the active pathway. And that is the percentage of readers who say, you know what? I've got to work with Masha. She's the interior designer I want to use. What's the next step? And it's, in my case, it's like booking a call with me to talk about publishing your book with us. In yours, it might be a discovery call. Maybe you go out to visit, whatever it might be. That's the number one thing you want readers to do. The second pathway, we call it our passive. Now, we both know that most readers aren't ready yet to do that. They're in information gathering, but we want to give them a pathway. So what we do is we exchange some helpful information, some other stuff that they can only get by essentially opting in. So now you're building an email list, right? And this is really important if your book is up on Amazon, because if your book is on Amazon or any online reseller, you don't get that customer information. So what you try to do is give them reasons to opt in to a list so that you can do follow-up marketing. So those two pathways, again, a percentage of readers are going to take each of them and become clients.
And one of the things you are suggesting is using your book as a lead magnet. So oftentimes, like I just created my own lead magnet. I know other designers have their own lead magnets of, how to, spring clean their home or, pick the right color or something higher end, like how to work with a general contractor or something like that, like an adjacent topic to interior design. What you're suggesting is to use that as a lead magnet and get people to your email list. But I'm wondering, are you suggesting that prospective customers pay for the book or use it as a free
these kind of books, even though like I've got several books up on Amazon, I'm not I try to price them as low as possible because they're, again, a lead magnet, right? I'm not worried about making $1 selling a book. And nobody...
It's not your goal.
Not at all. It's about really finding people that are ideal clients, your ideal reader who's an ideal client, and encouraging them along this pathway. We've had clients charge. No, this is not about that. This is about doing things that you can't do with Facebook or social media, Instagram, whatever, websites even. I just had another client, his book is right here. He just had he wrote a book for nurses about, he's a financial planner, how to take care of their future, right? Had this huge launch party, a couple hundred nurses from a very specific hospital. So this was targeted to a specific hospital that he works with, and had a huge book signing event, gave out all kinds of cool stuff just a couple of weeks ago, as a matter of fact. And he will get clients from that. He will definitely, an evening with the author. You can't do that with any other kind of marketing material. So there's all kinds of referral tools, having this as a referral tool, when a client comes on board and is now working with you, the interior designer, you could give copies of your book to them and say, listen, I love working with you. If you know of anybody else, friends and family, I'd love you to, share my book with them. So it's this like little soldier out there working for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I like that. Even as a welcome gift when you work with interior designers, it's like big budget projects. So that would be a nice little welcome gift.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So Mike, you've got a proven short book template that works for lead gen, for sales. Can you share some of the steps that in that framework that you've developed?
Yeah. So, and I've already briefly mentioned it, right? So there's essentially 3 sections of a short, helpful book. The front matter, the main matter. Actually, there's 4. There's actually 5, including the cover. So there's the cover. We won't get into the details, but especially for interior design, like a great looking cover that's attractive, professionally designed, critical. There's the front matter, which is a forward. It might be a forward from a VIP client. Maybe, there's some celebrity you did some work with, and if they're willing to write a forward, that's very powerful. One of my clients is a former NFL football player. Joe Montana wrote the forward for his Shook. So, if you're a football fan, that means something. And the fact that he was targeting men in their middle age because of what he does, very powerful. So that's in the front matter, forward introduction. We also, again, Masha, as a marketer, you'll love this. We have a specific chapter called "Who Should Read This Book?" right in the very beginning, because you don't want people to waste their time, right? You want to say, listen, and again, if you read any of my Shooks, you'll see this. Here's who should read it. Here's who shouldn't. The main matter, we've talked about that. That's whether it's frequently asked questions, whatever it might be, special sauce, etc. And then the back matter is where you segue from the helpful information to now kind of in sales mode. We have a chapter that, again, I encourage all my clients to use called "Who Relies on Me" or "Who Relies on Us?" And we describe 3 to 5 ideal client avatars. So for me, you, Masha, are one of my client avatars. You're a thought leader with a membership program that are working within a niche. You are described in my books. And the idea there is to let people kind of find themselves like, oh, wait, I get this. Mike works with people like me. We have the next step chapter. We have the special sauce chapter that's in there, which is describing, sort of the unique things the unique way you do everything that you do. And then your bio and stuff like that. And then the first and last page of every Shook, Masha, is an opt-in offer. I know we're not showing it, but you can see this is the very first page. There's a QR
There's a barcode that you're showing.
And this is so that in case this is that passive call to action. It's also the last page. And
where does the barcode go?
The barcode?
Once you scan the barcode, what happens next?
Oh, so that's good. Yeah, I love it. So now these are mine. This is one of my Shooks. I have tested over the years many, many different calls to action, passive calls to action. Courses, free courses I've developed, videos. So where my current one, which I've now had for a couple of years and left in place, I have a hidden resource page on my website. You can't get to it until you know the link, where I give away a ton of valuable information, templates, videos, and they have to opt in to get it. But now that's how I'm capturing all those Amazon leads. And it's a hidden resource page with a bunch of helpful, additional helpful information.
No, so now, as soon as you started describing that, I immediately thought of all the business books that I've purchased in the past, where they provide some type of template that you now have to go on an author's website to download a template to do an exercise or something like that, and that's how I end up on their email list. So I totally recognize that little trick with the resources. Is there?
And by the way, that's fairly new. And by the way, on my podcast, I've worked with over 250 of my own clients. We just interview number 240 is going live tomorrow with a very smart young lady. You would be amazed, Masha, how many nonfiction business-focused book authors don't even do that. They're like, oh, wow, really? I should do that? Like, duh.
Yeah, that's like a logical step, but that's, something to consider. So that's great. I think that's such a great marketing strategy, or part of your marketing strategy, having that kind of, something that gives you so much credibility and differentiates you from other interior designers. Is there anything else that we haven't discussed or talked about, or I haven't asked you, that you want interior designers to consider if this is a good strategy for them?
Yeah, I mean, listen, and obviously interior design is a very visual thing, right? So there are ways to leverage And we do paperback, we do Kindle, we do a very unique format called a flip version, which is a color version that you can read on your phone or your computer. So there, you can definitely incorporate and should incorporate the visual components. If you can, I was telling you about the artist, right? She's going to have all kinds of reproductions of her artwork in her shook. So, don't. It doesn't just have to be text. And obviously for your audience, I think, visuals are an important component. I would say the other thing, Masha, is don't over-engineer this to the point where it constricts you from not doing anything. Publishing a book these days doesn't have to be super expensive. It doesn't have to be super difficult. And I think the payoff is huge in that it's all about, again, that what I call the ultimate competitive edge. Everyone who's listening to this, every one of your listeners has competition. What can you do to distinguish yourself from the competition? So I would say, just do it. Read. By the way, if you allow me, I'll give away a couple of my shooks here to your listeners. And the full version, matter of fact, this woman I just interviewed, her podcast interview goes live tomorrow. I was just on her podcast 2 months ago. 2 months ago, I hadn't heard from her. She emails me a couple of weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago, and said, Mike, my shook is done. It's on Amazon. She took the book I gave her, which I'm going to give your listeners, and wrote her own shook. And it's awesome. I could not believe it. So it's happened many times. So
how hard is it to actually publish it?
Well,
what does that require?
Well, so I give you a recipe. So you've got the framework. So now you know what you should write, where it goes. Yep. So now the only things you really need, Masha, are you really ought to hire. She hired a professional cover designer. That is a must. She did the interior design herself. Now she's a marketing gal. She feels good about using whatever InDesign or whatever it is. If you're capable of that, fine. So really it's just the design of the cover, the design of the interior, copy editing, getting a copy editor at least. You don't need an editor. And then putting the files up on Amazon is very, very, and a lot of times your listeners may not even need to be on Amazon. They may just need a book printer, print them up, and just have them in their portfolio.
And just to make sure I understand, you do recommend a physical copy of the book, not just like a PDF of it.
Yeah, I'm not. First of all, I don't ever use PDF. I use a flip version instead. So flip, audiobooks, flip books, paperback, because it's the cost. You can do hardcover, but now your cost a lot higher. These are like $3-4 a copy. And then digital, like a digital book, Kindle book, you can do that too. But yeah, I mean, it's very hard to sign a PDF or autograph a PDF. Sure. It's very hard to, and you'll be surprised when you're out there, if you're at an event, if you're doing an open house, whatever it might be, people will ask you to autograph their copy when you're giving it to them.
That's pretty cool. Well, I hope I'm going to put in the show notes the link that you are providing to your own shooks. But if listeners want to connect with you, if they're thinking of a book and they want to get more information, where can they find you?
Best way is just go to MikeCapuzzi.com, Masha, and check out my blog. There's a lot of good articles where I go into more detail. You can see a ton of examples. So yeah, MikeCapuzzi.com.
Amazing. Well, Mike, just one more thing before I let you go. I always ask that question to every guest. What's the one habit or practice that you've implemented in your life or in your business that has been game changing?
Just one?
Just one.
I even wrote a book about it. Go figure, right?
Of course you did.
So again, I know your listeners can't see it, but can you see what the book is?
The magic of gratitude. Oh,
right. So I know it's sort of cliche, but I'll tell you, Masha, and I'm nearing more retirement age than you are. So I would say just being grateful of a lot of different things, the people who've helped you, and expressing that. I was just on a Zoom yesterday where I was really encouraging listeners to write thank you cards on a regular basis, handwritten thank you cards. When people are guests on my podcast, they get a little copy of this little book. They get a little thank you note. They're sitting right behind me. I think gratitude, whether it's even business or personal life, I think is important. And then real quick, I'll add a second one, just as a more business-oriented one, masterminding, following people like you who are thought leaders, who are bringing people together. I've invested very heavily in some very big-time mastermind groups. I've run 18 of my own over the years. Being around smart people is just hugely advantageous.
I love it. I agree to that one. I myself am constantly investing in masterminds and think tanks and these type of memberships. So definitely agree with that. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Mike.
Thank you, Masha. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Marketing for Designers. This is Masha Cohen signing off. See you next week.